In today's world, we need inspirational, positive, focused, spiritual, and goal-driven people to keep us going. Learning from others and how they grew individually while struggling with everyday life is how we can better our lives. No matter who you are or where you came from, you can be better today than yesterday as long as you believe in yourself. A simple, God-fearing man, Jeremy Dossey believes in you and what you're capable of. He's an actor, retired bull rider, loving father, and voice of the common man. Welcome to Jeremy Dossey Today. Now here's your host, Jeremy Dossey.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm going to let y'all know something right off the bat. I am being a fanboy right now. I am fangirling big time. If y'all knew Matt West, he's with the PBR. He's voice of the PBR PBR announcer. Man, what's going on?
Oh man, just enjoying life, brother. You?
Same, man. Things have been crazy for me lately.
Yeah,
it's one of those deals where you get blessed and it's you can't believe it because it's so amazing, you know.
Yeah, crazy. You know, we talk about living a crazy life. Crazy is always one of two things. It's either an incredible blessing that we sometimes complain about. It's like, oh, I want to be busier. I want to be busier. Then you get busier and it's like you have a choice. You either complain about it or you thank God for making you as busy as you wanted to be. Or just like the craziness of like real life happens and we have to keep a positive perspective of like, okay, these are all learning opportunities. They're all blessings, but crazy as I was growing up always sounded like a negative, and now I look at it sometimes as a positive. So,
right, yes, I agree. Well, in your line of work, it's crazy is a positive. I mean, and you talk about it on your podcast, and we'll get to that later also. But man, it's just like I said. Thanks for coming on. We've been trying this for I guess probably over a year, close to a year, haven't we?
Yeah. I appreciate the invite, man. I wish we could have done it sooner, but
yeah.
God's timing is perfect. So.
Exactly. Yes, sir. You're right. You know, the crazy things in my life, and it's been a rough year for me. Now, my listeners know that. Yeah. And just trying to get things rolling again and back to normal. But the reason why I wanted you to come on is because you're one of the positive influences in my life. And you actually, over the last year, and everybody, for the new listeners that don't know, my late girlfriend passed away in September. It'll be a year this coming September. But there was a deep, dark place I was at a point in time, and listening to you and some friends and your podcast always brought joy to me, you know. And I think it might have been, was it Flint that said talk about joy? No. I don't know. It was one podcast I was talking about. Somebody was talking about joy, how joy is a lot different. Yeah, maybe in yours.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy. Like people don't understand like the difference between like just pure joy, just being happy, just. And to me, I think that pure joy, it resonates through the hard times. It resonates obviously through the good times, but it all comes from faith. You know, it's all based on our faith and knowing that God's plan is perfect even in our darkest hours. And that's hard. It's so hard sometimes to remember, because we all get in these moments. And I know it was hard for you. I know that like lately I've had some rough times that a lot of people don't know about, but it's one of those things where it's like you keep fighting, you keep waking up every day and going, okay, thanks God. You know, you gave me another opportunity to get better, to glorify you. And so that's what we do, man. You know, yeah. we cry when we need to. We try to crawl out of those holes as fast as we can, but sometimes it takes us a little longer.
I know we kind of rushed into this, but let's go ahead and tell the people a little bit about you, who you are, where you're from, and get to where you are at the point in your life now.
So I grew up in a little bitty town. I grew up outside of a town of about 300 people in Delaware, Oklahoma. my parents were amazing, worked their tails off. My mom worked for a doctor for years, but also, worked at a bank. She, until the last couple of weeks when she had open heart surgery, she was still working in her retirement years at a sale barn. My dad grew up an athlete, played college baseball, went to work for the Union Pacific Railroad, worked tirelessly for us to get by. When I was a kid, my parents, I was blessed with the most amazing parents ever. Fast forward through high school, just grew up kind of a small town kid, went to college, didn't really know what I was doing in my life. Kind of got forced into announcing a little junior bull riding.
Yeah, I love this story.
Forced into announcing, I mean, genuinely like forced into it. I was super shy, socially awkward, so incredibly shy. And I still get that way today, depending on the setting and like where I'm at and everything. But you can see me, so you notice I like fidget with my hands when I talk. It's different when I'm not in front of a crowd. But I got forced to announce a little junior bull riding. And it kind of snowballed very quickly. I picked up a microphone for the very first time in May of 2003. I announced 3 junior bull ridings that year, I believe. And then in April of 2004, I announced my first rodeo. Like super small rodeo, small amateur rodeo. And then in January 2007, I did my first PBR. I did my first PBR finals in 2010 and snowballed. And now here we are, 2022, working for CBS Sports Network, moving over to the telecast. So, that's the short version of a really, really long story filled with twists and turns and highs, and lows, and you know the drill. But yeah, so now I've been for years. I've been one of the PBR announcers. Now I'm one of the broadcasters, commentators, analysts, whatever you want to call it, for PBR teams on CBS Sports. And then January, I'll go back to just being a full-time announcer.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how's that going to work when the regular season starts back up?
I think that's the plan. At least that's what the plan was going into this thing. I have, gotten to a point in my life where it's like I don't plan too far ahead. We're August? Excuse me. That's January. I got to get through August first. I've just got to get through August, and then we'll take September. But the plan is to go back to announce it. We also know that with any kind of organization, things can change. They can decide that they, don't like the look or the feel of something. And so I think they're going to be very distinct between the two leagues, PBR teams and the regular Unleash the Beast season. So I think I'll go back in-house, but who knows, man? I'm always looking for opportunities, and I always know that, companies like that can always want change.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I work for a corporation, so I understand how that works.
Right. You get it. Yeah.
But man, so as much as I have, you've heard the negative and heard the positive about these teams. And I really didn't want to talk about this. I want to talk about the motivational deal, but since we're on the subject, me personally, I love the teams.
Right.
I retired in 2005 from riding bulls professionally for 7 years. Jeremy Dossey here. Let me tell you about one of my partners, Farm and Ranch TV. They got over 50 TV shows, special events. I mean, everything's related to the Western lifestyle with a rural variety mixed in with it. You can catch them on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. The website's www.watchfrtv.com. You don't even need a subscription. I mean, it's that simple. It's that easy. So remember, Farm and Ranch TV, because that's where the future of rural TV is, y'all. At that time, every bull rider, I'm what I call one of the last generations of the old school guys is what I call. I just turned 41, so I'm right there at the last generation.
Yep.
And so there's 2 things everybody wanted to do when they rode bulls: world champion and make a good living at it.
Yeah.
I know Lane Nobles personally. I've seen Lane. I used to ride bulls with Lane's dad. I've seen him since he was a little bitty boy. And I was talking to him one day at work, and I said, "What do you think?" He said, "It's a good idea. I love it. It's a great idea. We get contracts." That right there, he said contracts. That right there, a bull rider can make a living now, support their family. Yeah. I don't know the whole details behind it, but
and I don't either.
But
honestly.
But it's still, you hear that word contracts and you're a bull rider and you're like, where do I sign?
Right.
And to me, that's a great, great idea because you can make a living. And also, in my opinion, the team deals is also bringing outside people that's never watched bull riding day in their life. And they're like, well, teams, what's this about? And they're watching it. And it's like you said on your live the other day, it's great for everybody all around.
I judge everything in our sport. I go to the locker room first. I try to take the 30,000 foot view, but I always go to the locker room because at the end of the day, our sport is based on the bull riders, right? That's what started this whole organization was 20 bull riders. So I go to the locker room and I'm really close friends with most of those guys. And so I just go in and I start asking them, hey, what do you think? What's your opinion? And we have these open conversations, and that's how I start to formulate my opinion. And I always say this, like I heard Vin Scully say about the Dodgers that, you'd never hear him criticize any of his guys. And his guys were anybody that wore a Dodgers uniform. I feel that way about our PBR. Like I'm going to go off my guys that are in that locker room. That's what I want to start with. If they think it's a good idea, then I'm in favor of it. If they think it's a bad idea, then I'm going to be skeptical.
Yeah.
But I always put my guys first. And so I go to the locker room and I start asking questions and everybody seems super pumped about it. Everybody's excited. You go out to the fans. The fans are the ones that are going to question. My opinion on it is if it's new and the athletes are excited about it and you don't give it a chance, that's your fault. Yep. That's a preconceived notion, and you're not really a fan of the athletes. That's, and I know that's maybe a little harsh, but if you're not a fan of opportunity for these guys that they're excited about, then man, you're missing the boat. Like just give it a chance. If you don't like it, cool, bail out. Completely understand. But I like it, man. It's bringing so much new energy. It's bringing so many new eyeballs. Like the fact that we look at Richard Childress and Austin Dillon that come, from the NASCAR world, and I love both those guys. You talk about two awesome human beings. And Richard and I were walking into the arena the other day after Cheyenne, and he's like, man, it's almost like winning a NASCAR race. And I said, almost. And then the following weekend, his team wins in Indy. Yeah. They win a race. So it's like, it's cool to see him celebrating, two different sports the exact same way and being equally as passionate about it. So for me, I love it. And people are going to say, well, yeah, it's because you're on TV now. No, I love it. No matter, I was almost not involved at all. And I still made a commitment that, like, no matter what happens, like, I'm diving into this thing, whether it be as, an employee or as a fan, because I want it to succeed for the guys.
Go back to Richard Childress, like you said. I can't even talk this morning. But if he didn't believe in it, he wouldn't invest. He wouldn't own a team, So obviously, if you got somebody coming out that high,
well, and the thing is, there's so many high-powered business people that have bought teams. There's so many people that are involved in these teams. I don't think anybody's ever become a millionaire or a billionaire making stupid decisions.
Right.
And so that's another way to look at it. Like, these guys invested in these teams. They're not in the business of just throwing money away. So successful business people are not in the business of just throwing money down the toilet.
You know what I like about it? About probably, I'm going to say 85% of the guys on these teams I've never even heard of in my entire life. Yeah. And that right there is, they have a chance and opportunity of a lifetime And that's what I like about it. I mean, they're coming from Brazil. I mean, these small towns, USA, and then they're talented, and now they get an opportunity to show their talent. And that's what I like, you know.
I love the word opportunity. I love it because I think that we all have it. And granted, some people have it to different degrees, but at the end of the day, you have an opportunity every single day of your life to get better. And I don't care who you are, where you're from, you know, what your life has been up until this point. You have an opportunity every morning when God lets you open your eyes. And so what you do with that is up to you. I look at like Ezekiel Mitchell, who's one of my favorite humans ever. He's one of my best.
I know Zeke.
but like Zeke was very, and he doesn't mind me talking about this. He was upset. He went undrafted, was very upset. And I said, you got to look at this as an opportunity, man. And guess what? He got picked up as a free agent by the Austin Gamblers, and he turned out to be in a much better position than most of the guys that got drafted. And he's going to benefit from being around guys like Jose and being around guys like, you know, Austin Richardson, those guys that are focused on winning. It's already made Zeke a better bull rider. It's going to make him a better person. It's going to be a better opportunity for him in the long run. So
good. Like I said, I'm excited. I just was upset I didn't get to watch last weekend, but I'll get that all figured out.
Yeah.
So you talk a little bit about on your podcast about motivation and staying positive, and we talked a bit about it when we first started this. And you have a lot of guests on that's actually that's out of the rodeo world. You know, you got MMA fighters, you got millionaire people. I mean, you have everybody. You started out not that way. Let's talk about how kind of all of that just led up. I know you talked about on yours, but was anybody talk about how that lead up to getting other individuals and other outside people out of the sport of rodeo?
So for me, it was simple. When I started the podcast, I was frustrated because as an announcer, you don't have a lot of time to tell the whole story of an athlete or a person. Mm-hmm. And I felt like we were doing a disservice to everybody in our industry. I was like, man, there's so many great stories in our industry like that I wish fans knew, because for me as a fan, if I know somebody's backstory, like UFC has done an incredible job with their embedded shows and their, you know, when they go and they learn about the life of an athlete and see them at home, learn how they grew up, things like that, then I emotionally invest in an athlete, right? We didn't have anything like that in our industry. And I felt like it was a disservice to, you know, a lot of our guys. And I thought, man, if I could tell these stories and help these guys tell their stories, our fans would resonate with them more. They would be more inclined to cheer for them, buy their merchandise, buy tickets to come to the shows, whatever it is, and support these guys. And so that's how it started. I wanted to tell stories of rodeo athletes, of bull riders, stock contractors, things like that. What I found first was I wasn't a great podcast host.
I'm not either.
I had to find my way through that, and I do think it's gotten exponentially better over time. But I got to a point where I was like, man, every single person we talk to talks to me about some adversity they've had to overcome in their life.
Are you looking for that special gift for a loved one? Well, check out Southern Bling Creations. They do everything from tumblers to t-shirts and everything else in between. You can find them at Facebook at Southern Bling Creations or call them at 832-427-0846 and make sure you ask for Jennifer. Oh, don't forget, it's Creations with a K. Southern Bling Creations.
So fast forward to present day, we're actually relaunching the podcast as we speak. And we're relaunching it with a little bit of a different demeanor, because when I go to listen to podcasts, I'm looking for things that are motivating, uplifting, that will help me learn, you know, things like that. And so I want these stories to be a positive influence on somebody else. And so I'm going to make sure that every episode has an underlying tone. Some are just going to be, you know, catty, goofy, like entertaining, but
have Brad back on.
Yeah, exactly. Like it, but I mean, even so with Brad, he's got such an incredible story of how he went from this guy that was just a super fan, like he was a fan, and he got into the industry, and now he's one of, if not the best in the business. So anyways, but I started realizing in these conversations, I was like, man, why relegate it just to Western sport when I have friends that are in the UFC, when I have friends that are in business, friends that are on TV or cops or whatever it is? Like, everybody's got a story. And if you're anything like me, like, you just love hearing positive outcomes. You love hearing that, you know what, this person went through something similar to what I'm going through, and they made it and thrived on the other side. I can too. I love the mentality of, why not me? Why not me? Like, if somebody's going to win, my wife put it out in the universe and it didn't work, but she went and bought Powerball tickets. And she was like, I bought the winning Powerball tickets. And you know, why not? It's got to happen to somebody. Somebody's got to be on TV talking about a sport that they love. I'm the example of that. Like, I'm a shy kid from middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, that didn't want to talk in front of anybody, much less a crowd and much less millions at home watching on TV. And now, like, I'm on TV every week now talking about a sport that I love. Like, it can literally happen to anybody. So
that's the whole point of this.
That was a really long answer to say. When I started this, I realized I knew, so many other people from different genres. So my thought was, let's get some of those people on the podcast, bring in some of their audience simply to introduce their audience to bull riding, rodeo, Western sports.
And that's the whole point of this podcast. I did one several years ago, a political one, and I had to get out of that. I was getting death threats. I mean, it was to that point, and I was like, this is BS. I'm done. I'm done with this. A few years went by, like, and my growth with God and my spiritual life got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I was like, I want to start my podcast back again, but I don't know what to do. I can't really preach, and I don't want to preach, but I was like, you know what? Everybody's got a story. Everybody has a story, and somebody somewhere can benefit from that story. That's the whole point of this.
Yep.
Is motivation people. I talked to a buddy last night, and I'm going to have on here a couple of weeks ago. He was in a car wreck. For about 3 years, he fought and struggled, with this one leg, and he had to eventually get it amputated because, and me mentally, I couldn't imagine losing an extremity. I mean, but in talking to him, and it's just, anyways, I don't want to go into too much detail because, like I said, I'm going to have him on there a couple of weeks. Yeah. But it's something like that. It's just, how do you bring yourself from that? And then, and then not to sit back and think, well, okay, I've lost Lacey, and here I am. And I had a coworker at work. We're like brothers. He's like an older brother, and we mess with each other a lot. But for him to tell me that I'm one of the strongest people he's ever met, and he don't know if he could handle what I was going through. Dude, that brought tears to my eyes when he told me that, because it's just, for him to say that and me realize, but I am a lot stronger, but it's not me. It's God giving me that strength. It's God giving me that faith and that power. And so that's just the whole point of this, is just, having you on here, because you got a strong faith. And you're, like I said, I'm taking up your time.
Well, but to your point, what you have been through, you don't realize at times when we're living our lives, we don't realize how many people look at us and go, man, I'm going through something really similar. And they get hope. I get hope from people every single day of my life that don't even know they're helping strengthen me. And I think that that's such a cool thing. And we always say, our heroes and blah, 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 blah. But no, it's everyday human beings that you see walking down the street, that in your life, that maybe you follow on social media, that you're gaining positive influence, that you're gaining strength from, that you're gaining hope from. And like, that's why if you look at my social media, I try really hard not to be negative. Some of my best friends will get on there and bitch and complain and just moan and groan, and they have a negative connotation to everything they say. Look, I have the same life they do. Mm-hmm. I have the exact same problems that everybody else does, but I don't want to put that out there, because I know, and I say this on about every episode of my podcast, there's so much positive in the world. Sometimes you've just got to look a little harder to find it.
You're right.
Because negative is so easy to find because it's just thrown in our face all day, every day. Dig a little deeper, and it's almost like that Field of Dreams type thought in my mind, where like if you can just get through those trees, there's this big, beautiful field of positive and opportunity, but you got to get through some crappy trees, with a whole bunch of thorns, but pull those back and you can see this big, beautiful world. And there is a lot of negative. You talk about politics. I love politics. I would talk politics all day, every day. But something that I noticed, and I went and I had to unfollow a bunch of political, pages the other day, just because it was like I'm tired of, because I get very emotional. I get intense about it. It's something I'm passionate about. I care about this country. I want this country to thrive. And I'm going to do everything I can to help pursue that. But at the same time, a lot of times this little phone starts skimming through. It is a hotbed of negativity.
Yes.
It raises your blood pressure. It does things like that. So sometimes you just got to walk away and figure out how to get your smile back and move forward.
Yeah. I think that's why I was drawn to you at first, because you're just so positive, and you actually, I mean, I'm like, Matt's, like me. I'm like, it's amazing. And just how much similar we are. I mean, and to me, I'm serious. I hold you up. To me, you're a celebrity. I know you're just an everyday, common, small town Oklahoma guy, but to me, I mean,
right.
It's just the way I look at you. You're just, that's just how I look at you. And I've told you that before.
My wife, my parents, and my dogs think the exact opposite. They're like, quit leaving home. You got stuff to do around here.
Right.
You've got treats to give us, Yeah.
But like you were saying, I don't even know what you're saying. I don't know. I've done lost train of thought. Oh,
about the positivity.
Yeah, about positivity. It's just, you stay so focused and so driven, but you're a private person, and I'm turning into a private person because I used to be so Facebook, just blast my everything out there. Now I've learned, you know what? The more private you are, the better your life is and the less stress.
Yep.
And it's taken me several years. My ex-wife would argue with you on that, but but it's just one of those things where I got to stay focused on me. And the last week, I had so much negativity in my life, and I just literally just cut it out just like that. And the last 2 days have been so great. It's awesome. I've got a lot of things going on here at the house that I can't share yet, but it's bringing people together, bringing God around me more, and the people I've partnered up with. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. But like I said, it's something that's really.
I really enjoy privacy. I really enjoy keeping things to myself. But at the same time, like I go back to, how do you help other? If you go back and listen to episode 34 of my podcast, it's basically me just crying. Like,
I cried.
But I got to a point and I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, I want people to see the real me. And so episode 30, I think it was 34. And it was all like timing, because 34 is my favorite number. That's my go-to number on everything. And I was supposed to record a podcast that day. I was having a horrible day at the gym. I was having this really negative self worth feeling. But I was like, I'm going to put it out there because I want people to realize that, like, even though I own a gym, I do this, I do that, I still have all of this negative that creeps in. Hey, if we're being real, last night I laid on the floor at my house and I cried because, like, my back's fractured in 3 different places. I got a disc messed up. But one of my legs is getting substantially smaller than the other. And I'm having some nerve damage. And my leg just, it moves all the time. And I hurt a lot that I don't talk about. My wife sees it, and that's about it. But I was in some pain, and I just had this like breakdown moment last night laying on the floor at my house, because I was like, man, my leg's withering away to nothing. My nerves are dancing around like crazy. I'm hurting, and I just needed to release it. And then it was like, my wife came and she was like, yeah, but look, you've still got both your legs. You still, have a job you can go to, and you still have your family. And so it's easy to make all the negative go away if you just really look at it.
Yeah. But like I said, it's one of those things that we just need to focus on. So change the subject. Positivity. Let's go back to positivity. Let's talk a little bit about your gym and how all that got started right quick.
So when I was 22 years old, I was in college at Oklahoma State University, and I had gotten into the college lifestyle quite a bit. I was super, I grew up working hard in school, straight A student. My first 3 semesters of college, 4.0, like I loved school. Then I got in with a different crowd, and I realized that nobody's there telling me I have to go to class every day. I got lazy. I got really out of shape, and I jumped on the scales one day, and I had gained over 100 pounds from the time I graduated high school. And when I looked at the scales that day, I was like, man, that number's not what I wanted to see today. And I just moved home. I was super intimidated, going back to being shy and awkward. I moved home. I joined a gym back home, and it's a small town gym, but I was terrified to go in there in front of people. I had never worked out. I had never really done anything like this. And so I was so intimidated. Showed up in the middle of the afternoon thinking I'd have the gym to myself. I could work out. I left because there were people in there. Came back that evening. I left because there were people in there. Finally, like midnight that night, I got my first workout in and started. Eventually I'd lose over 100 pounds. And I just felt like I always wanted to give back to other people. I wanted to be a blessing to people that felt the same way I did. Because I didn't feel that at that gym. I never felt like people were there to help each other. And so I wanted to open up a space where people of all walks of life were comfortable. If you were a bodybuilder, great. If you're 75 years old and just wanted to walk, great. If you were wanting to lose weight and get back in shape, great. And we have that. We have opened a place here called WestFit.
Plug it.
Our client, yeah, it's at WestFit OK on social media. We have this crazy clientele of, we've got some high school football players that have been coming in here because they couldn't practice this week under supervision of a coach. So the coach called me and was like, hey, my guys want to lift, but they can't lift here. And so, I had a bunch of high school football players in here working out this week, right next to some 80-year-old women that come in here every day and just like to walk and get out. And, it's climate controlled. And then we'll have guys that are in fitness competitions. We have everything. We have people that walk down the street from the bank on their lunch hour just to walk on the treadmill or get a workout in. I love it, man. I love the culture we have here. We opened in 2017. I'm hoping that we can add some more of these places around soon. But like I said, I have to just have faith and trust that God's going to open that door when it's time. But yeah, man, it started selfishly. I wanted to get better. And then I knew from day one, I was like, someday I'm going to open a gym that people feel comfortable in. Not the corporate kind of no judgment zone type gyms, like legit, that felt like a family when you walked in. My mom works the office. Everybody loves my mom. With her having her heart surgery lately, everybody's going nuts. Like, how's your mom doing? It's a family. If I'm on the road, people are taking the trash out for us. People are sweeping the floors. Like, we have such a cool community here that takes care of each other. And that's something that I wanted to build. When you walk in our gym, one of the first things you see is the word respect, huge on the wall. It says respect. And then underneath it says given/earned. Because I believe that you've got to show respect to other people before you can earn their respect. That's just the way I was raised, is like you respect other people. And I hear so many people in the gym culture go, I'm going to earn their respect. I deserve their respect. Not if you're not treating them the way you want to be treated.
Right.
It goes back to the golden rule. And so I love that. I love the word respect, and I love the ideology of like, show it before you can get it. So.
Well, we're fixing to go ahead and get off here and everything. Tell everybody where to find your podcast, and if you want to share all your social media
we're like I said, we're in the process of relaunching the podcast right now. First episode is going to drop within days. It's called Matt West Now. Pretty simple. Matt West Now. MattWestNow. You can find it literally anywhere. You can find podcasts, Spotify, Apple, whatever. Social media is at Matt L. West. And that's everything. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Matt L. West. Because back home, everybody calls me by my middle name, which is what that L is. And so it's a little different. But
have you noticed there's been an issue with Apple Podcasts lately to speed?
I haven't, because I've kind of jumped out of the space for a couple of months and kind of reset some things in my life. And I haven't, man. I went to
listen to yours in Flint the other day, and I'm like, why are they talking so fast? And then I went to listen to mine. It's the same way. I'm like, well, okay. So I started going to Spotify and listening.
I noticed that on Apple every once in a while I'll bump that fast forward button.
Yeah,
that speeds it up a little bit. So
maybe it's what I did.
No, I watch a lot of YouTube, man. I watch a lot of YouTube, but I'm constantly listening to people talk.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it. I really do. Like I said, we've been trying to do this for about a year. And I
feel like you started, man. We'll have to do this again.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm not a very good podcast host.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if the stories get out there and the message gets out there, hey, we're all bad. We're all bad at a lot of things in life, but we got to do it.
Exactly.
I think you're killing it, man. I think you're doing an awesome job. I love, and I'm not stroking it, but I love your mindset. I love the way that you approach life. I love the way that you are real. Just keep being you, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. And again, Matt West Now. You can find Matt West at Matt L. West on all social media. Also, you can find me, Jeremy Dossey, on I can't even talk again. All social media, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and I don't use my Twitter, but I'm on there, and Instagram. Make sure to listen, Jeremy Dossey Today, on Apple. Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and there's Google. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great day, and I will catch y'all later. Y'all have a great day. God bless. This was a Jeremy Dossey production.